Hey guys, Mr. McGurry here, and we today are working on fractions and specifically comparing fractions and putting them in order, meaning looking at a couple fractions, 2 or 3 fractions, and deciding which one's the biggest and which one's the smallest and which one's probably in the middle. So, things today we'll be learning some tricks. Notice we have our numerator on top and our denominator on the bottom of our fraction. Notice both of these fractions have a numerator, a top number of 3. We can learn a couple tricks to really quickly look at this and decide, hey, I know which one is bigger just by looking at the numerator and denominator. Same with a question like this we'll be working on today, where we have the same denominator and figuring out a quick solution to which one's greater. We'll also be looking at some equal fractions for some of the grade 4 students, and we'll be having a lot of other fun things we're looking at just with fractions and practicing today. So a strategy we can do to help us solve questions, at least one strategy that I like to use is, let's say we're comparing these two fractions, 4/6 or 1/4. So I always like to think, okay, if this is our chocolate bar, and this one, the 4/6, we're breaking it into 6 pieces, 6 equal pieces, and 1/4, we're breaking it into 4 equal quarters, and for the 4/6, we're keeping 4 of the pieces, and 1/4, we're keeping 1 of the 4 pieces. I always like to think, okay, are those pieces greater than half or less than half? And what I mean by this is, if I wanted only half of, let's say we're looking at 4/6. First of all, how many 6 do we need to be at half? 3/6, right? 1, 2, 3 is half of a chocolate bar, and there's the other 3. So if we have 3/6, that's half. So we're looking at 4/6, or 4/6 specifically. Now what I like to think is, okay, 4/6. I know that that means this fraction, 4/6, is going to be greater than half. So I know that. Let's look at 1/4. If we had one chocolate bar and we broke it into 4 pieces, it looks something like this, 4/4. Now, half of a chocolate bar using quarters, how many quarters would we have for half? Yeah, 2 quarters. So halfway mark with quarters is 2 quarters. Now, let's look, we only have 1/4. So is 1/4 half of a chocolate bar? No, it's not. It's like it's 25%, it's a quarter. Versus, we said 4/6 is over half because 3/6 is half. So 4/6 we know is more than half. So we know that 4/6 or 4/6 is greater than 1/4. Oh, I'm going to just go in and put my symbol showing greater than 4/6 is greater than 1/4. Remember this, you could think of this as Pac-Man, and its mouth is open to this, meaning he wants to eat the bigger number. So let's look at this one. We have 7/8 or 7/8 and 2/5 or 2/5. So I'm going to start by thinking, okay, let's do 7/8 first. 7/8. If I have 8 pieces, this chocolate bar, I broke it up into 8 equal pieces. How many pieces do I need to get to half? Well, what's half of 8? So I would write on my paper maybe 7/8, 7/8, 7/8. Half of it I know is going to be 4/8 if I'm looking just at the denominator. 4/8 is half of the 8s. 4 and 4. So let's say I got rid of 4/8. So that's half. Is 7/8 more than half? Yeah, it's way more than half. It's almost the full bar. That's a pretty big chunk of the chocolate bar. 7/8 we know is bigger. So it's greater than half. I might even write, it's greater than the halfway point, which is 4/8. Now let's look at 2/5. I'm missing a 5th, but you guys will get the idea. So if I want a full chocolate bar, we're going to want 5 pieces. So we got 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces, 4 pieces, and there should be one more piece here. Let's just put this upside down and imagine that's a green piece. We have 5 pieces. So what's halfway? It's about 2.5. Or we can just think greater than half is 3/5. So we have 2/5. that's a lot less. If we break it up, that's a lot less than half. Because we're taking away 3 pieces, and we have 2 pieces left. That's less than half of our pieces. So, if we have half, let's put this sticky here, and so we have 2/5, and half of it would probably be 2 out of 5, or we can even think of it as 3 over 5 would be more than half. So 2/5 is less than half of the pizza, or of the chocolate bar. So, this one's less than half. 2 out of 5 we know is less than half, and we know 7 out of 8 is way more than half. So we know then that the 7/8 is going to be greater or bigger than the 2/5. Let's say we have a chocolate bar here, and we're going to break it. Let's look at the first one. We're going to separate, we're going to order these 3 fractions. We're going to break it into 3 of the 4 pieces. We're going to see which one's the biggest and which one's the smallest. So if we have 4 pieces, we know that's going to be a full chocolate bar, but we're going to keep 3 out of 4 pieces. So we're going to get rid of 1. But before we do that, let's just think. What's half of 4 over 4, or 4 out of 4 pieces? Half would be 2 out of 4, right? We know half is 2 out of 4. Now 3 out of 4, is that bigger or less than half? Yeah, that's half. This is bigger than half of the chocolate bar. So we know this is going to be bigger. Let's look at 3 out of 6. We have the chocolate bar is broken up into 6 pieces. Let's first think, what's half of a chocolate bar? What's going to be half the chocolate bar? Yeah, 3 out of 6 is half the chocolate bar, and what are we working with? Oh yeah, 3 over 6. So, would you agree that that's half? Yeah, that is half of the chocolate bar. So, this isn't bigger or smaller than half, it is half. So, if something is smaller than half, we know this is going to be bigger than it. And if we see a fraction bigger than half, we know that this will be smaller than it, because it's the halfway point. If we're putting it in order, remember we're putting more than 3 in order, we are going to put the smallest on the left and the biggest on the right. So we have so far 3 over 6, we know that's half, and we have our 3/4, which is bigger than half, so we're going to put that on the right. We wouldn't want it like this. So it's on the right. And if it's bigger, our next number, it would go over here. If it's smaller than 3/4 and bigger than 3/6, it goes here. And if it's smaller than all of them, it'll go over here. So we have this so far. Let's figure out what's going to happen with our last one. This one we have 7/8. So what's half of 8 as a denominator? Yeah, 4/8. So that's half. But we have 7/8. Holy! Well, that's over half. But what the issue is now is we have 2 that are bigger than half. What are we going to do to decide? We have 3/4 and 7/8. They're both bigger than half. What you can do is, well, if you had these blocks, that would make it very easy and helpful. But we know that the 3/4, because there's less pieces, there's only 3 pieces versus 8 pieces, the pieces are bigger. So if 1 piece is missing only, which there only is 1 piece missing out of 3/4, 1/4 is missing of the chocolate bar, we know that that piece is going to be a big piece that is missing. So we're missing all of this big piece right here. And 7/8, we only are missing 1/8, 1 out of 8 pieces, right? So they're both only missing 1 piece, but we know because the pieces are smaller, because there's 8 of the pieces, each piece is going to be smaller, and only 1 is missing, it's going to be a small piece missing versus a big piece or a bigger piece missing with the quarter. So we know if there is only 1 piece missing, and there's 2 numbers, and they're both greater, we can go with the number with the bigger denominator, because we know that the pieces are going to each be smaller that we're sharing amongst. And so the piece missing is going to be smaller, meaning a bigger chunk of the bar left versus a smaller denominator like 4 or 1/4. So if we were ordering them, the smallest numbers or fractions go on the left and the bigger on the right. We know this is half. 3/6 is half. So that's the smallest. Then we have, after 3/6, we have 3/4. That's greater than half. And this one here too is greater than half, 7/8. But we know they're both missing 1 piece. And these pieces are smaller. There's 8 smaller pieces, so we know that it's going to be more of the chocolate bar. So we have it in this order. We're just going to look at some quick tricks to determine fractions when they have the same denominator. It's quite simple, actually. Let's say we have 3/4 and 1/4. Which one's greater? Well, they both have the same denominator. We see that. So we know the one with the bigger numerator is going to be bigger. Pac-Man's going to eat the bigger number. So let's get 3 out of 1/4, because 3/4 goes around here. And 1/4, we only have 1 out of the 4 pieces, is about there. So you can see which piece is really bigger. 3/4. Let's say we have 4/7 or 6/7. Which one is bigger? Denominator is the same. They're going to each be cut up, whatever it is, or split into 7 different pieces. There's 4 pieces here out of 7, or there's 6 pieces out of 7. If there's a pizza, somehow you cut it into 7 pieces. I'm not sure how you do that equally, but if you did, would you want 6 pieces of pizza or 4 pieces of pizza, since we're having the same size of each piece? Yeah, 6 out of 7. I'm just going to show you a quick trick to determine numbers, or which fraction is greater, when there's 2 numbers or 2 fractions that have the same numerator. See how both have a numerator of 3? What you could do, well, first of all, if you used our other strategies, you would know that this is more than half, and this is less than half, so you know this is bigger. But the other thing you can do is, if you look and they both have the same numerator, the one with the smaller denominator is going to always be bigger, because they both have 3 pieces, but these pieces are smaller because there's 10 pieces in all, and this one has less pieces. There's only 4 pieces, so that means each piece is going to be larger. So would you rather have 3 small pieces because this candy bar has been broken up into 10 pieces? You can only have 3 of the 10 pieces of candy bar. Would you rather have a candy bar the same size, but it's broken into 4 pieces, and you get to have 3 of the 4, or you can have 3 of the 10. Yeah, the smaller denominator, 4 is smaller than 10 fourths, or smaller than tenths. So we want 3/4, because that's the more of the chocolate bar, or more of the pizza, or more of whatever you are comparing. We'll do one more. So one last one. We have 2/5 or 2/6. So 1 2/5 and 1 2/6. We can put them next to each other and see if you have these kind of Cuisinart rods. However, we could just see, hey, numerators are the same. The one with the smaller denominator is going to have bigger pieces. So 5 or 6. There's more pieces with 6. So we want the smaller one because the pieces are going to be bigger. So 2/5, there's more of 2/5 than there are 2/6. So for homework, I want you to answer these questions on these 2 sheets. So first sheet, all you're going to need to do is determine which one's bigger and use your Pac-Man logo or your greater than or less than logo to show us which one is bigger, which fraction is larger. So the first couple rows, you're going to probably be primarily using the strategy we used at the beginning, which is figuring out what's half. So if I have 3/4, if I had 4/4, what is half? And that would be 2/4. So is that greater than half or less than half? And is that one greater than half or less than half? And then decide, based on that, which one's bigger. So if I know this is greater than half, and this maybe is less than half, you guys will have to figure out yourself, which way will the arrow go? It's going to eat the bigger number, the one greater than half, probably. So you're going to do that for the first couple rows, that strategy primarily. This row, the third row, you're going to be working on your strategy of looking at the same denominator, it looks like. And then the last row is going to be practicing your strategy if you have the same numerator, it appears. Finally, on these questions, you're just going to rewrite them in the proper order. So let's say a practice question. We have these 3 fractions. I know this is half. Half. I know, because 1 out of 2. I know this is less than half. Less than half, am I right? And I know this one is greater than half. Bigger than half. So I would put it in this order. What's the smallest one on the left side I put? Yeah, 1/9 is less than half. 1/2 is halfway, so I know. And bigger, the biggest one is 3/4 because it's bigger than half. So try your best on all these questions, and if you need to review your past part of the video, or if you need help, or you can come see me at school if you're coming to school, and we'll work on this more. Okay, best of luck.